Not only does it reveal much about character, the way we respond to disappointment, but it also reveals much about what we believe about God. How could you do this to me, God? How could you let this happen to me? The Bible tells me that you love me. My own experience is that you do love me. I have experienced your love. I've seen it on display. I've been blessed by you time and time and time again. How could you do this to me, God? Often we turn inward. We become bitter as individuals when things don't go our way, when we receive an answer that is not the one we wanted. I remember several years ago when my wife and I were, for at this point almost 4 years, somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years, we're struggling to be able to conceive a baby, and we were just in this infertility place, right? Just thinking, man, are we ever going to have a baby? We want a baby so desperately. And then we were thinking about adoption and all the other options, but we were just thinking, Lord, is this ever going to happen for us? And I remember a lesson that the Lord later applied to Chantel, my wife's cancer journey. He initially started really teaching me in our infertility journey. And that was this: Bo, stop leaning on promises I have not made. Because that is what many well-intentioned Christians do. I'm talking about blood-bought, truly saved Christians, right? People who love Jesus. But we have started believing in the Jesus that the world tells us about instead of the one that Jesus tells us about. We start believing things like, well, I guess everybody gets to have babies. Well, no. That's not in here. Not everyone gets to have babies. I guess everyone gets to have long and healthy lives. Well, no. Let's just look at the apostles for an example. Almost every single one of them dies a horrible death. So much for health and wealth and prosperity, apostles. Sorry. I mean, some of the greatest men who've ever lived, but that didn't apply to you. And the Lord had to teach me, Bo, what if my plan for you is not what your plan for you was? What if you don't get to have a baby this way? What if you don't have a biological child? And the Lord had to start kind of seasoning this truth within me because I had started leaning on lies. I had started trusting in promises that God had never made to me. Well, like, if I believe enough, you'll give me a baby. If we go to enough doctors, we'll get a baby. Like, that's just not scriptural, guys. No, Jesus says that more things like this. Like, in this world you will have a great time every day. No, in this world you will have troubles. This is a broken, dark, fallen world. In this world you will have troubles, Jesus says. But there's good news. He says, take heart. I have overcome this world. So the hope is not in the thing that God might give you. The hope is in Jesus, who he's already promised you. The hope is not, do I get to have a baby, or does my wife get to survive cancer? Because that's another thing he told me as Shell was going through that. As I was praying and praying, as so many of you were praying day by day by day by day, save Shell's life, preserve Shell, deliver her from cancer, heal Shell. As we were praying these prayers of faith, God encouraged me in my prayers for that, and then also reminded me, I have not made you that promise. And listen, I'm not saying this to be dramatic because I'm the guy up here. There was a time where God, in my moments of prayer, would say, would you love me if I took her? Not everyone gets to have the long life. Every one of us has lived long enough to realize that with a loved one or a friend. Not everyone gets the 80 years. And that's not a sign of God's judgment. It's not a sign that they did anything wrong. It's not that they were the really bad sinners. It's not that at all. It's just we often lean on promises that God hasn't made instead of leaning on the ones he has made. Like, I will never leave you or forsake